Okay, let's start with the GT. Been in my family since about 1979 with my father's. My brother got it in about 1990. I then got it from him around about 93, I think it was. My daily driver from then till around 2000. Came off the road at that point with a rattling bottom end, and I had no money to fix it, so it got parked. It sat in storage for well, 5 or 6 years at least. A few rust issues had developed here and there, and it could be a bit of convincing for one of my friends to do something with it. I put it in the shed at my current house instead of my old house, and then it annoyed me. Eventually I originally going to attempt the panel beating and painting myself. A panel beater painter offered to do a pay-as-you-go deal, which I accepted, and that was less than successful. Wasn't impressed with the work. Later on I will document some, I've got still photos which I'll do a slideshow for you, documenting its progress through the first panel beater, the next panel beater and the painter. I will do some videos on the things I've already done since I got it back, piece by piece, and hopefully it won't take too long. We'll catch up to where I'm up to now, and then from then on I'll have hopefully more interesting videos on what's left to do. Okay. Once I got it back from the final panel beater, about painter I should say, about 6 months ago, I've had to find all the parts that have been, the first panel beater lost some bits and pieces, mainly small stuff, but enough to be a pain. And after having been apart that long, it tests your memory trying to remember exactly where all the little things go. This is the first complete bare body shell restoration I've ever done, which has been a challenge, and I will just run through briefly, roughly in order of how I've assembled it so far, and we'll go from there. I started with the suspension. Pretty much all the pieces were sandblasted, painted, and then assembled. I'm not made of money, so wherever possible I reused the old parts, any new stuff where it was no good or beyond repair. So that we have the suspension in place. So I did do a brake upgrade with the slotted rotors, and I've changed I changed years ago from the PBR calipers that were originally on it to these Gerlock ones. Now they're off a 74 LTD. I picked them at the time just because the pads were bigger. Whether they're better or not, well, that remains to be seen, but it seemed like a good idea years ago. After the front suspension was in and assembled, I then moved on to the rear suspension. The diff is all brand new, the Detroit locker centre, assembled for me by Wiggs Muscle Parts in Shepparton. Does a wonderful job. He supplied a lot of parts for me. Yeah, so the springs in next, followed by the diff. At least I had something rolling at that point. Just some second-hand tyres on there for the time being, just so we can roll it around the workshop if I have to. Then ran the handbrake cable after I finally found the handbrake arm, which I had to dig out and clean up, and lots of rusty parts, surface rust only, but rusty, and new brake lines throughout, and new fuel line as well. That was a nuisance to fit, not difficult really, but fiddly. You need a couple of people to give you a hand really. It's more awkward than anything else. New fuel tank, that was courtesy of the first panel beater that managed to lose the original. Don't ask me how you lose a fuel tank, but anyway, he did. I've added in the torque bars off the same 74 LTD, or actually it was a Landau coupe that I used to have, and so I've added them in. I put them on when it was my daily driver, and I found it tended to take some of the squat out of it when you put your foot down. So we'll see how they go. All new bushes appropriately. The rear leaf springs are GTHO springs with an extra leaf added as well. It was mainly for the towing we used to do semi-regularly years ago, and I'll probably still tow the boat with it when it's finished, so it won't do any harm to leave them there. The the shifter that was in the gear shift that was in it was Mr. Gasket shifter. So we've put a brand new original shifter in here. What else have we done? Now this car was originally a entrant in the 1984 Cannonball Run. A little bit of history on it. It hit a kangaroo on its way home from Perth, which damaged the bonnet and the right hand mudguard. So it is a new repro bonnet on it. The old one I've still got hanging from the ceiling here. And yeah, the engine bay just about complete. Got all the brake booster refurbished, master cylinder refurbished, along with the clutch master cylinder, reconditioned wiper motor, even got the IFD plate put back on. Yeah, so the wiring loom was the first thing that I installed. Runs right through the inside of the car up to the back. Like a two-piece loom. Not too bad to install. Yeah, tidied up the engine bay. The little things from the panel beater were not right, which disappointed me greatly. I spent the first month fixing little things that they'd not quite done right. They'd neglected to put these little bits of putty in here, so I had to redo those. And just small things, but enough to be annoying. Then put the shaker surround in, new bonnet locks, new bumper bars. The old ones were looking a bit fairly sad. Cleaned up the grille. I've still got to put the chrome trims on, or stainless trims on the front of the grille there, but it's nearly there. From the rear, we've got a new rear bumper. The spoiler that I've always had on it, which it was an aftermarket spoiler when they were new. It was only the HOs, to my knowledge, that were factory fitted with a spoiler. So this is not a HO spoiler, this is an aluminium spoiler. Original tail lights and much original trimmers I've been able to refurbish. In the boot, well, not too much to see there really. I've run some speaker wires while I had everything apart, right up the left hand side, what it was easy to get at. Rather than pay to get lots of parts re-anodised, well, after I cleaned them in the sandblaster, I've got a similar sort of finish by just running a light coat of a gold paint over them. It's not perfect, but I haven't got $1 million to put this back together again, and it is a 50-year-old car. Putting the doors together, I've walked out for Dynamat, and I've laid it within the doors. Now the Dynamat is a sound deadening bituminous type sheet. I've also done the floor and the underside of the roof, which makes quite a difference in sound to what they sound like, and I'm hoping it'll keep it nice and quiet inside. We've got the dash installed. For those of you that haven't used Dynamat before, this is what it looks like. This is what's left of the leftovers after I finish. It's quite a simple looking thing. You can peel the backing off and stick it on. Cut it to shape, and it comes in these fairly large sheets. But I found the easiest way was to make a paper template where I wanted to go. And if it was somewhere that was too big, I could just cut it into 2 or 3 pieces and install it that way, which is how I did the doors. I made a template, cut out the main shape, then cut that into 3 pieces and installed it in the doors before I put anything else in the doors. There's the Dynamat on the floor. That was probably the hardest one of all. There's a lot of compound corners and shapes to try and fill in. It took me a couple of days to do the floor, where I did the doors and the roof in, I think, about 3 hours. Now we've got the dash installed there. That was something of a pain to put in. Needed a few extra hands would have been handy, but anyway, it's in. It all seems to work so far with the testing I've done. A couple of minor upgrades done to the wiring loom while it was out. It's got some relays added in there just to improve the lights a little bit, although they weren't that bad when they were new, but I thought it was a good idea while they were apart. But yeah, a lot of time sitting there looking at wiring diagrams to get the colour codes and everything to put it all back together again. Glove boxes in. I did get new wood grains for the and chrome sections for the front of the glove box there. We had the dash pad repaired by the dash doctor in Melbourne, and the new hood lining and sun visors, which is all in there. We've got a new parcel shelf on the back, and it's all coming along quite nicely. The doors weren't terribly difficult to do. Just the trick with the back door was to, well, with both doors, all the doors really, I found to put the glass in the door first, then start assembling the quarter vents and that sort of thing. It makes it a lot easier just to push the glass up from the bottom. It's quite simple, even though I'd never done it before. So put the glass in the bottom of the door, lay it down in the door, down through the hole, there's plenty of room, and then put the quarter windows in, and then after they're in, you can put your felts in and slide the glass in. It's actually surprisingly easy to do. If you do it in that order, then put the door locks in, gives you a maximum space for everything. It's actually quite simple to do, and I've been pretty pleased with that. Now, the stripes were done by the painter. They were they were stuck on by the painter. Unfortunately not very straight, so I'm going to have to redo the stripes, which is frustrating. Now, anybody's putting this nice chrome strip along the bottom here, which I've put 2 new ones on. The trick with those, which most people don't tell you, is to sit it in place, clip the top on first, and the bottom goes on second. If you try and do it the other way around, it bends. And they're not cheap. As for rust repairs, which were shown in the slideshow earlier, it's got a new left-hand front door skin. It's got 2 new rear quarters, the repro bonnet, of course, and the original bonnet lives up there in the rafters. Bit of an ornament. So there you have it. I've managed to cover in a few minutes what's taken me the best part of 6 months to put back together. Yes, but that should be enough for the first instalment, and we'll see where we go with the next one.